is a lot right now. Are you feeling it? We all need new tools to help us walk through the chaos with grace, ease, and compassion for each other and for ourselves. In this podcast, you'll hear from parents, educators, and other experts who can bring perspective to the monumental job of parenting. It's time to level up and be warriors for our kids and our communities. This is the Warrior Parent Podcast. I'm Marci Mitchell.
And I'm Debbie DeMano. As parents, we understand that it really does take a village to raise our kids. We hope that this podcast serves to create and support that community for you. Join us as we discuss and practice our core tools, which are proven mind-body techniques that can be used by anyone to improve your life on a daily basis.
Hey, a special trigger warning for anyone who needs it today. We will be talking about suicide and suicidality, so please do take care of yourself. Thanks for listening. Hello and welcome back to the Warrior Parent Podcast. We are very happy that you're joining us again today. And today we're talking to Jinhyun Shin, a mental wellness coach and entrepreneur. His calling in life is to help prevent suicides. As a mental health entrepreneur, he's one of many who are trying to destigmatize mental health. And as a coach, his skill is in finding the language that communities already use around mental health and providing language to safely explore further, which sounds super interesting to me. I can't wait to jump in. So welcome, Jen.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I've become a quick fan of the Warrior Parent Podcast. Before we start, I just want to honor you guys because I'm at that stage in my life where my friends are turning into parents, right? They've got 2024 model kids coming out soon. And they're nervous.
Latest and
they have
greatest.
all kinds of questions.
Yeah.
So thank you
Awesome.
for creating this space. I can't wait to talk to you guys today.
Okay. So we just had a little brief introduction. I think we're going to have Jin on many, many times. I think we've got some projects in the works already. We're super excited to have you. I wanted to start on maybe something a little bit lighter and then work into the bigger issues around suicide, which we're not scared to talk about. And that's why we do the Warrior Parent Podcast, so that we can talk about the difficult things. You know, Marci and I are much older than you. And so our kids are probably your age.
I have the 1995 and 97 models.
Yes.
Yep. 95 here. Yeah.
Yeah, we got some millennials, we've got some gens, we've got all of them, all the
Yeah.
things. So anyway, we're super excited to talk about all the things, but I want to start with something that you talk about, which is profound. And we learned quite a bit about the subject during COVID, and that is loneliness. And I think, especially here in the United States of America, I think we do a really shitty job, if I do say, of living in community, in families. I know I've traveled to lots of other places around the world, and they just don't do it this way. And I don't frankly think it's healthy. So let's talk about navigating loneliness as a family. So let's start there.
Yeah, fantastic. Oh man, there's so many threads to pull on there. I'm going to try to make sure I'm pausing for tangents, so I'm not just rambling.
Power of the pause. We love it. We support it.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, I think if we just kind of start by unpacking loneliness, right? Well, I would like to just start by defining it.
Yeah.
And loneliness, in its simplest form, I like to say, is when your experience and its underlying feelings make you feel like you're disqualified from belonging.
Mm-hmm.
And the underlying feelings are so important because they are the evidence that support the claim. On the surface, it's just, we can all be alone, but how it kind of starts at the surface is it's this discomfort with sitting with ourselves. That's the real difference between solitude and loneliness. If somebody is telling me, and if I check in on them and how they're being, and they say they've been locked in and they're thriving, right? Maybe I haven't, maybe I know they've been, on a weekend away, but I'm just going to let them be, right? Because they're not having any discomfort being alone.
Right.
But what is on the surface as discomfort of being alone is these underlying feelings that we're holding on to as evidence for I don't belong.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's,
So powerful.
the piece on belonging,
Yeah.
which is, why am I drawing a blank on her name?
Brene Brown.
Brene Brown,
Oh,
sorry.
yes. Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
She has
Totally.
chapters and chapters on the difference between
Fitting
loneliness
in and belonging.
and
Mhm.
belonging. Yeah.
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 I've never heard
Wow.
it put that way of disqualified from belonging. That is like, that really was
I know.
bam.
My mind's blowing up right now,
Yeah.
actually.
Like
Yeah.
what a feel that, I
Wow.
mean, that feels awful. The thought
Yeah.
that you would feel disqualified, like I don't belong. And yet I totally know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah.
So then,
Painful.
how has the pandemic, and not just the pandemic, but everything as a result of the pandemic now that we're sitting in, right? Like
Yeah.
this place and time, politics, the environment, like it's crazy right now, right? So then layer this all onto what you just defined as something pretty daunting.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of when you talk about all of this, right? I kind of put that in air quotes. Gosh, I gotta get better at podcasting. But Debbie was talking about all of this as a way to kind of summarize just I think just the overwhelming amount of information. And that makes it so hard to then discern what's the signal in all of the noise that I interact with day to day. Mental health, as we define it at Pensive and my company, which we'll talk about later, not important right now. We define mental health as your ability to be present
Mm,
at its
Mm.
simplest form. And so
yeah.
when there's just an overwhelming amount of information that we start our days with, right? It used to just be look at the newspaper, but now it's look at just an onslaught of information. It's
Mhm.
like you're just starting out scatterbrained,
Yeah.
and then you're fighting for this sense of presence again.
Yeah.
And when you feel like you don't have it, that can so quickly be that feeling that disqualifies you from belonging, right? So it
Yeah.
happens in an instant. It truly happens in an instant.
Yeah.
And the overconnectedness that we are currently
Yeah.
in the digital realm
Yeah.
only makes that harder.
Yeah. And you think how many people don't ever even know what that means?
Yeah,
Right?
totally.
Right? Like Marcy and I are into it. We're all about our meditation and finding space and being in nature and breathing and all those spaces.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But 90% of the population has no idea what you're even talking about.
Yeah, which is why I'm so excited to be here because I love just getting to break down these definitions I know it wasn't always that way. I've been terrified of media, of putting myself out there just as much as the next person.
Yeah.
Mm.
But what frustrated me was we were talking about mental health in a spectrum from legitimate mental health illnesses to reasons why we should still buy guns in the world. It was just like, gosh, we cannot just have a singular definition. Like, how are we going to make progress here if we can't have some definitions? So,
Yeah.
yeah, really excited to talk about it.
Yeah,
Vita.
and that brings me back to what was in the introduction, which I found so interesting. You talked about finding the language that communities already use
Yeah.
around mental health and then providing language to safely explore further. I would love for you to say more about what that means to you.
Yeah, loneliness comes into our lives all at different times. And so that's why you kind of have to pinpoint what's the language that they have,
Mhm.
and then where can we add? How we experience loneliness as we go through life is as we oscillate between two kind of experiences of our identity, and that is self-awareness versus self-conscious, right?
Mhm.
Self-awareness is great. It's very informative and it's helping me on my journey to self-actualization, where self-conscious is stopping me and stopping my curiosity. And that is where, wait a second, these things that I thought were me become, ooh, maybe I shouldn't be this, and I need to discard this part of me.
Yeah, maybe you never were that to begin with, but it's that
Mm.
self-consciousness, like you say, that label that got placed on you that really isn't you.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And that's the first time we'll experience, just a small bit of loneliness of, oh, no one can relate to this, right?
Yeah.
And that only manifests as we get older, right? And we experience all of society's ways of how narrow masculinity and femininity are, right? And we
Mhm.
just keep
Yes.
experiencing that mold over and over again until we take the reins of that self-awareness. And I heard you guys talk recently on a podcast about like all the unlearning that comes with that, right? And like, oh, man.
Yes. And when you're as old as we
yeah.
are.
Yeah.
We got that much more unlearning to do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But topic for another time, right? So we'll come back to
Yes.
that one. Yeah.
Yes. So you talk about the tools, right? So tools for being.
Yeah.
You described being so eloquently. So Marci and I, we're all about the tools.
Yeah.
And so talk about your tools for being.
Yeah. The tools for being, I think they can all kind of be captured through this word that we've been throwing around a lot lately related to mental health, and that's mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to take this as a perfect opportunity to try to add a bit more language here, right? Because I think there are two forms of mindfulness that are distinct and serve different purposes. And the first is reductive mindfulness. Reductive mindfulness, it kind of cuts out all the extra noise, right? So think like yoga, breathing exercises, physical exercises, meditation. I know you have a whole list of, what do you guys call them? Emotional well-being tools, right?
Yeah.
That you can kind of peruse, and I encourage everyone to do so. But yeah, when you use reductive mindfulness techniques, afterwards you feel very grounded. It's like, okay, now I feel like I know where my center is.
Yeah.
But that can still leave you with this unease, this dis-ease, because you have these unresolved feelings still lingering. And that's where additive mindfulness practices come in. Additive mindfulness practices being things like therapy, journaling, reflective, or active reflection. Put those two words together. And what you're doing there is you're taking the rest of the unresolved feelings that are lingering, and you're adding language. And you're creating meaning.
Yeah.
And the effect there is, I'm borrowing this from a pastor friend of mine who put it so eloquently. He said, when you actually reflect actively, it's like you're taking rocks out of a backpack and you feel light
Yes.
and ready, and ironically enough, ready to go get hurt again, so that you can go make
Yes.
meaning out of
You
life.
got to be brave. Yeah. You got to
Yeah.
be vulnerable.
Yeah.
I
So
love
it's
that.
that combination is so
That's
important
so
for people to
beautiful.
have.
Like we years ago, I started doing therapy, right? And so 30 years later, people are like, "Oh my God, like what, she was a hot mess for sure." 30 years of therapy. But all of that therapy was really what you were saying. It was really what I call it, just sort of sitting in your shit, right? It's like,
Yeah,
okay, let's talk about this thing again.
totally.
Let's talk about it some more, and then some more, and then another couple of weeks go by, and then we'll talk about it some more. And so what's so different, I think, about what you're saying and what Marcy and I have learned in our spirituality practice is that you don't need to do that really anymore. Like let's just talk about where you're going, right? And let's just look at that and imagine it to be true, right? And that, I imagine that's what you're doing in your journaling processes, right? Like you're imagining how you want your life to be, who you want to surround yourself with, like all the things, right? It may
Totally.
like
Totally. When you say what you said, describe as just sitting in the shit is so relatable. And where we try to push people is, we tell people you got to make meaning out of the mud.
yes.
Yeah.
And if we just hit the nail on the head with the point of additive reflection or additive mindfulness, I'd like to tell people that if you make a habit of discerning your feelings against your personal values, you will stay very close to the person you imagine you can be.
Yes. I love that you brought values in because it's so important. It's just vital to, first of all, identify what are your values and
Yeah.
then bring them into how you process things, how you live your life, how you
Yes.
speak, you know,
Yes.
because you
Yes.
could say this is your value, but if you're over here just saying things that are the opposite, you're not living your values. So
Right. Right. Exactly. And you do that for long enough, and that's when you experience existential crises like quarter life, midlife.
yeah.
That's all just this recognition of, oh my goodness, I've spent X amount of time that I can't get back,
Yes.
according, not according, or in alignment to my
Yeah.
values. Yeah. But
Yeah, but it's all
yeah,
part of that journey. It's all part of that
totally.
journey
Totally.
forward.
Yes.
You spoke about the journaling, which is one of our tools as well. We love to encourage journaling as a form of processing or removing those rocks from your backpack. Tell
Yes.
us a little bit about your company, about Pensive, and how that journaling comes in there.
Yeah. Yeah. So we created this journaling app with a feelings wheel. And that was our first take at this is,
Mhm.
hey, can we encourage people to look at feelings like data, right?
Mhm.
We're wearing technology to sleep to figure out when we're coughing at night.
Yes.
Like, can we can we also look at feelings like data too? Right.
Yes.
Because that's
Yes.
all informing our identity. So that's kind of where we started. And with this core set of feelings, everybody has their own customizable feelings wheel. So that
Mm.
means I
Oh.
can choose what my intensity is. Right.
Yeah.
In
Oh,
my
And
that's
so
love
interesting.
category, I've got something that's just says big hug with a deeper shade of pink.
nice.
And
Oh,
that's
I can't wait to see that. We need to
right.
jump in there and see
No
that.
kidding.
So the
Yeah.
idea is that you're checking
Yeah.
in a very sort of deep, meaningful way to how am I feeling now? So that awareness piece so important. But then also you're talking about the language and making it richer and
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's not sitting right here. I think it's across my room, but again, bringing up Brene Brown makes me think of her Atlas of the Heart, and
It
where she
totally.
defines
Yes.
all those feelings with this
Yes.
rich,
Yeah.
meaningful language.
Yes. The Atlas of the Heart for me was like, okay, this is like 500 level concepts.
Oh,
How
yeah.
can we bring this
Yes.
down and
Yeah.
Yeah.
just kind of dumb it down so that we can really just take one step all together
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
acknowledge feelings as information?
Yeah.
It's
Well,
very
so
true.
and here's the rub on this, right? So this is a part that Marcy and I get so frustrated with because we are simply wanting to get to younger kids and teach them social emotional learning, right?
Yes.
Because if they don't know what the feeling is, how will they ever use your app? Right. They and Brene Brown says also they really only understand about 5 different things. So if they
Right.
have no awareness of what this thing is that they are actually feeling without all of your color as you describe and
Yes.
right the liveliness of the emotion, then how can they survive? How can people evolve if they're never taught these things?
Yes. Yes. And that is where community is irreplaceable.
Mm.
uh, how can we how can any individual be tasked with making meaning out of life if they only go through experiences they've never gone through before by themselves? Somebody asked me recently, if there's one thing that you could unlearn from a kid, what would you tell yourself? And for me, that's that the self-made man or the natural graceful woman is just a marketing ploy. It's the most fake thing. It's absolutely impossible. How can you be the best version of yourself if you're going to experience and grow through experiences you've never gone through before? That doesn't make any sense. And so yeah, that's where we then also try to really increase community and share in the application.
You are blowing up my brain right now.
I
I'm making these
can pause.
motions
Yeah.
like, oh my God, like, yeah, you gotta stop because I'm trying to take it all in. I should be
Yeah.
taking notes. Thanks God we have somebody taking notes here, but wow, like holy cow, like you're blowing me up here a little bit. I have to ponder some of this that you're talking about.
For
But
sure. Yeah.
wow. So another piece that you talk about as we are the warrior parents sitting here, is you talk about trading in the perfect parent
Yeah.
for the relatable hero.
Yeah.
So tell us about that.
Okay, we've been having some fun conversations around some theories. And so I'm going to present, I was wondering like, what would this conversation go here? I'm going to present a theory,
Okay.
and
Let's
that
have it.
will kind of be how I relate to, or how the relatable parent has become so meaningful to me. As research and science advances and we learn more about generational relationships, right?
Mm,
Now, for example, you go to the doctor and the doctor will ask, generations back, do you have any history of alcoholism? Do you have any history of cancer? Right?
Mhm.
Well,
mhm,
generations back. And I have learned that much like we inherit genetics, we also
Mhm.
inherit tendencies, we inherit behaviors.
Mhm.
yes.
And my theory is that we also inherit unresolved tension.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The day my dad, I really should have ran this by him. So dad, the day my dad really became like my hero was when he shared with me this experience of uncertainty. And it was when he was studying in Colorado. He's Korean, and his parents were in Korea at the time, and he was studying grad school in Colorado, and he was having a hard time. And he said, if I didn't exist right now, right, then it would have such little impact on the world, and it would take years before anybody really found out, and the ripple effect would be very small, and not far reaching. And the thing is, I had that thought in seventh grade.
Oh
I
my.
thought to myself, if I disappeared, if I didn't exist, it wouldn't make a difference on the world. And even though I've heard about suicidality and I learned about it for years afterwards, I didn't actually know that somebody that close to me, my dad, right, had experienced that thought of that level of uncertainty that I very directly experienced.
Yeah.
The importance of the relatable hero, the importance of the relatable hero is that you're acknowledging that your kid is going to experience life at a pace that you can't control, right? As young parents, you always want to solve the issues so that you can see that perfect child express their self-awareness. But life is just attacking in so many different ways of expectations, and what success should be, that it's almost making it impossible for a kid, for anybody, to speak out about their uncertainties in life.
Yes.
Best try to foster that resilience is to show that you are also dealing with uncertainty,
Yes.
and that
Amen.
because they are
Amen.
your kid, they can also
Yeah.
deal with that uncertainty.
I
Yes.
love how you tied that to that he became your hero. And, you know,
100%. Yeah.
yeah. We know that in general, men aren't brought up that with that idea that being vulnerable is strong. I imagine that in Korea, that's also very true, that's
Yeah.
not, so well done for your father that
Yeah.
he was able to express that and communicate that with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Kudos, Dad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. And yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah.
The Every culture has different expectations and norms around mental health.
Yeah.
Uh, Koreas are really, really brutal. Hopefully I'll get to, speak to that one day on the right platform, but
Yeah.
it is far, far away.
Yeah. Well, it also, I hate to talk about Brene Brown again, but we
No,
will.
not at all. Love her.
But
Yeah.
it's what you're speaking to is the vulnerability that your dad showed,
Yeah.
right? And that's so much about. I mean, we had another podcast about an hour ago. We were having this same conversation. Wait till you listen to that one, but talk about the level of vulnerability that she showed in a very, very difficult situation.
Yeah.
Everyone's got to go back and listen to that one also. But I think that's the piece that we are learning as human beings. To me, that feels like evolvement to me, because it feels like, especially in Marcy and my generation, I'm a boomer, there was no vulnerability anywhere.
Right.
You just listen to me. I
Right.
don't want to hear what you have to say.
Right.
Just shut up. This is what you're gonna do. And that's it.
Right.
That's it. And there was no, I'm sorry. I mean, and that, I don't even consider that vulnerability. Saying sorry just
That's
seems
just
like,
accountability.
yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
So, but I believe, and Marcy and I are so hopeful that for your generation, you will be raising kids like that, right? Being able to be vulnerable, and that doesn't mean that they don't need discipline and all of those things, but you will be vulnerable and be willing to say, I am sorry, man. Like, I don't know what came over me, but right, just right. That's so beautiful. Just imagine a world, Marcy, 30 years from now, with a whole group of parents who've been able to do that with their kids.
Yeah. So healing. So healing and so important. And it demonstrates to the next generation, oh, I don't have to be perfect. I need to be vulnerable. I need to be communicative. I need to be willing to reach out and own my shit when I screw up, and then even also call out people we care about on things that hurt us, because that's more of what, Debbie and I were raised with, is that we don't talk about these things. And certainly parents have to be in this high level position, so they can't show vulnerability because it makes them worse parents or weaker parents, which is wrong, wrong, wrong.
Mhm.
And then also learning how to stand up for yourself and create your boundaries, to own your stuff, to apologize, to these are real relationships. This isn't superficial stuff. And it's time for real communication, real relationships, real bonds and connection. And that's part of how we overcome this loneliness epidemic, is true connection, which means you're open.
Yeah. I'm just consolidating everything because you guys are talking about everything at a pretty advanced level, right? There's nuance, there's detail, there's scenarios.
Mm.
For any listener that might be trying to figure out, like, how do I get there? At like the 100 level, I like to try to explain, and this is very much how Gen Zers are looking for language right now around mental health. It's how to be.
Yeah.
The importance of being present shows up in life when we have to change between states of doing and being.
Mm-hmm.
And the world today is so stressed about what are you doing and what have you done lately,
Yes.
that we're all looking for ways to talk about, well, how has this actually affected who I am? Right. Debbie talks about how we have evolved. And Marci just gave so many examples of how to. And this is all around how to be
Mm-hmm.
and how to interpret how we are being. Yeah. And yeah, the way that we younger generations can honor the privilege that we live within today is by sharing our interpretation of how older generations have impacted how we are being, whether that is good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
because that gives them this sense of, this is what I've been doing everything for. It validates that. And then it also gives them information to process of how to be and how they have evolved.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what these conversations need to take place for. Um, so we can kind of foster this pattern and this habit of being, something that is very, very needed across the world today,
Yes.
where you're seeing suicide rates continue to rise
Yeah.
because of the pressures of expectations and what we've done and what we need to do more of in order to be enough.
Yeah.
But how, like, just even in that language, right? It's no, whatever you do should not qualify how you are.
Right.
Like, there is a
Right.
level of doing enough and there's a level of being to be enough. And we need to separate those two things out.
Yeah, and remind people that just because the fact that you're here means you are enough. You deserve to
Yes,
be here, and it isn't based on what have you done, or did you grind today, or did you blah blah blah. You can just be, and some days being is not getting out of bed because that's all you got that day, and that's okay. Take
totally.
care of yourself, and
Totally.
some days you got to fill your cup, and some days you're out there filling other people's cups, but it's it's not about your self-worth. You are worthy. Every person hearing my voice, every person not hearing my voice, every person listening, every person who's never listened, you're all worthy. We are all worthy.
Yes.
So it's really got to start there.
Well, if you haven't learned or heard from, Marcy and I about being, your greatest fans, like we feel like we're on this mission to stop the OGs from trash talking people like you. Like we're so inspired by what you are doing and what you are saying and what you are feeling and what you are trying to understand. That's why we have to do this, right? If
Totally.
I hear one more person say one shitty thing about a millennial and, oh, they just don't know, they're all entitled, I'm like,
Yeah.
like don't let me get too close to you, right? Like, no, 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 right? So
Yeah.
we understand that you all do have this sense of knowing. You do. It's just making sure that we're trying to keep the rest of the world away from you, from from teaching you or telling you something else,
Yeah.
right? Other than what you already know to be true.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for fighting for all of us. Yeah. Yeah. And just the common enemy that we all face is just jumping to conclusions.
Yes.
So it's when
Yeah,
it's all the
jumping to
generation.
conclusions and othering each other,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
we're all connected. We're all
Yes.
connected. And Gen Z and millennials, that's the future. That's what's unfolding. We are handing that off to y'all. So you
Yeah.
need to be, and my son often says, "Boy, y'all just really fucked it up, and now you're going to expect us to fix it." And I'm sorry, like, and I'll say to him, I am sorry. There's so much truth in that. There's so much truth in that. And,
Yes.
Yeah.
again, everybody does the best they can with what
Yes.
they've got at the moment.
Yes.
But now what we want to do is show up to help you all
Yeah.
take the torch, and we're gonna be there. We got your back. We're gonna figure out how we can help. We're gonna support you. But
Yeah.
man, I'm excited. I'm
Yeah.
hopeful when I speak
Yes.
to millennials, when I speak to Gen Zers, because I know that's right what's needed right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And gosh, I hope it's okay that I talk about my faith or reference it just a little bit.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Fantastic. Thank you. Because another thing just jumped into my mind, and that is, sometimes or you can complain about an interruption in life and always be right. But there's incredible opportunity that comes with interruptions, and
Mhm.
there's always a way to look at them as invitations. Yeah, sure, there are a lot of problems today, but I see them as invitations to define our generation, right? Like when we look at years past, it's they are defined, and sometimes it's like they fought the First World War, they won the second, and those were the conflicts that came with the level of interconnectedness they had back then.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And the level of interconnectedness we have today has presented new problems. It's
Yes.
an opportunity for us to decide how will our generation be defined.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
love that. I
yeah,
love that so much.
Yeah.
yeah. We
Yeah.
just got to
You
embrace them as
you really do
invitation.
have a way with language and
Ah,
with just phrasing things in a way that is uplifting and makes you go, oh, like a new idea, which is, oh, it's beautiful. I love that,
Yeah.
Jen.
thank you. That's very kind. Thank you, Marcy.
Mm.
So I don't know. Do we dare hit another topic? Because I'm pretty sure Jen and Marcy and I were all best friends, like right
Yeah,
about now.
we could talk for hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna
So,
be the
but
first
I
3-hour episode of the podcast.
yes. Well, there's gonna be part two, part three, all that.
Perfect.
But
Perfect.
yeah, so you have a blog apparently that I don't know if you've just started, but you talk about social media and the impacts of mental health, and
Yeah.
this is completely apropos to your generation for sure. I don't know. Do we get into that? What do you guys think?
I'm happy to. I'm always happy to rant about
Okay.
social media.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do
Yeah,
it.
go for
Let's
it.
do
And then,
Sure.
we still may need to do the second social media one, but give us a
Sure.
taste.
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
going on out there?
Yeah, the mechanically, right? The behind the scenes stuff about social media
Yeah.
is, in short, they make money off of impressions,
Yeah. It's
which
gross.
just means clicks. Just means
Yeah.
clicks. And the way that they do that is, they show us content that already has a lot of clicks, or that is similar to things that we've clicked on before. And when we click on things, that is what they throw back in our faces to say, look, we're showing you relevant information. And it's like relevance is their shield, it's their defense of,
Hmm.
um, look at all the irrelevant stuff that we've had to show you in the process. um, and
Yes.
and it's
Yeah.
that, right? It's the amount of irrelevant stuff that we look at that steals us from our presence, right? From being present in our surroundings. And that's where it hurts our mental health. And there's a
Hmm.
lot of finger pointing going on right now. of, does social media affect our mental health? What data should we be looking at? And it's all smoke and mirrors. But really, in its simplest form, is there's too much information and it's hurting our ability to be present. A visual that I'll give people is like my Instagram feed it looks exactly like my spam email, just with more pictures and videos. That's it. Right. And the minute you accept that, you realize, oh, I might need to tweak my social media.
I know.
Yeah.
So yeah, we argue and fight about this too, because we have to have it to be able to get the word out there, but we don't really, if we didn't have to, we
Yes.
wouldn't,
Yes.
right?
Right.
It's interesting because of this podcast collaboration. What I've learned from a lot of people doing this work now is they're solely using podcasts as a venue for social media. And they're really trying to get away from all the other stuff.
Yeah.
People are feeling like their podcasters have some authenticity and some integrity about what they're doing. They're purposeful in their doing. It's a lot of work to do a podcast, right?
No, totally.
It takes you 10 seconds to put out some social media garbage or whatever. I mean, we do our best not to
Yeah.
make it garbage, but this is this is, again, you're talking about things that are showing up in our lifetimes. And I think probably for your generation, I mean, I don't think most of you watch the television anymore, right?
Right.
Right. Nor listen to just regular radio stations. You're
Yeah.
listening to podcasts. In fact, this was my daughter, who's 21 years old, who said, "You guys should be doing a podcast."
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? So that's how we're learning from you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we can go on about social media. I think I want to do a whole nother segment on that and bring in some statistics, some examples of
Yeah.
the harm, and hammer that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then hopefully some guidance for how do you balance it? How do you keep it something positive in your life without it becoming, the doom scrolling and just that phone attached as a appendage
Yeah.
that you can't put it down. You can't, like, you have that uncomfortable feeling if you don't have it. And I speak from personal knowledge there, but
Yeah. Oh,
where's my
very
phone?
relatable. Very relatable.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Jen, this has been amazing. I don't think I'm gonna be able to sleep tonight because my brain is like going
Great
1,000 miles an hour
discussion.
right
Yeah.
now.
Tell
Man,
us how people can find your app and you and
Yeah.
give us your information, your blog, whatever you've got going
Yeah,
on.
for sure, for sure. So yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you so much. This was a blast. Yeah, that time really did fly, and that was so
Yeah,
much
it
about all the
does.
topics. Yeah. As for the app, yeah, please check it out. It's called Pensive, spelled Penciv, so not the English way. It's kind of trying to be nostalgic of a pencil and writing. And yeah, that's where we hope we've provided and created a tool that is about practicing being. And
Love it.
practicing being is practicing looking at your feelings. And if you can get in the habit of that, like I said before, like you'll never fall too far away from like the person you can be. I really believe that. So yeah, I encourage people to check that out if you want to kind of an ear to Pensive's latest. Pensive.com has like where we are in the news or other podcasts, blog posts that I'm trying to be more bold about writing.
Yes.
And
You have a
sharing
gift. You
perspectives.
definitely need to be bold about that. You definitely have a gift
Thank
with
you.
words. That's
Thank you.
beautiful.
Thank
Mhm.
you. I'll keep doing my best there.
thank you.
Thank you.
And now for a moment about meditation and how it can help you and your family to self-regulate and mindfully return to a place of calm and centeredness. Our Cour Tools platform consists of a number of proven tools and techniques that are designed to reduce stress, anxiety, and overwhelm in spite of what's going on in your world. Meditation is just one of these powerful tools. And through a special partnership with Donna Appadoni, we have created a group of meditations available only on our platform and via Donna's own website. Here's Donna.
I am surrounded by movement. A breeze rustles branches of trees. It blows through my hair. People pass me on the street. Cars drive by.
Hi, I'm Donna Appadoni, and I'm the person who writes and produces the meditations that are used by Cour Experience. Peace of mind is wherever you are. Wherever you are, there is peace if you make it so. You can be in the middle of a field in a very rural place, or you can be in the middle of a busy city intersection. If you feel peace within you, then that's peace. It doesn't matter where you are. This meditation reminds you of just that. When your mind and your heart are in a peaceful place, your surroundings don't matter. When your mind and your heart are at a peaceful place, you'll begin to see and hear peace all around you. It's a choice we make every day. Remember, whatever is going on with you right now, you can do anything you set your mind to do.
Peace is a moment, or an hour, or a lifetime. Peace is a way of life. Peace, be still.
Donna's book, called Drive Time Meditations, is a collection of 183 of her purpose-driven motivators. Drive Time Meditations is available on Amazon.
Thank you for listening to the Warrior Parent Podcast. You can find us at courexperience.org. Make sure you join us next week for another informative conversation to help you and your family show up mindfully, purposefully, and joyfully with each other and in your community.
Our meditation segment is produced by Donna Appadoni with music from Scott Holmes. The full collection of meditations is in Donna's book, Drive Time Meditations, available on Amazon and at donnaappadoni.com. Thanks to Samuel Hale, LLC, for sponsoring this podcast. Technical and marketing support comes from Inspire Your Brand. Our podcast editor is Justin Beeden. Opinions expressed by guests do not necessarily reflect those of the hosts, producers, or financial supporters. I'm Debbie DeMano.
And I'm Marci Mitchell. The Warrior Parent Podcast is a production of Cour Experience. If you resonate with the idea of creating a community to help support kids and families, won't you join us by following the podcast and sharing this episode? You can even write a review. It truly does take a village, and we appreciate you.